Romans 1:18 says that we suppress the truth. We see it, we don't like it, so we suppress it. We do this all the time in our daily lives. If there's a particular activity you like more than another, you'll believe one report over another. I like salt. Anybody else like salt? I choose to take all the reports that say salt is good, and all the ones that say they're bad, I delete those and throw those away in another file. Because you can find reports that say both things. You just pick the ones you want, suppress the ones you don't like, and then you tell everybody you're biblical because you're trying to be the salt of the earth, right? And so you eat as much salt as you want until the doctor comes along and tells you there's a problem with some other stuff. We're not there yet, so we don't worry about that. We eat salt and love it. I do it in my own life. You do it too. We all do it. We suppress the things we don't want to believe, and we grab a hold of those things we do want to believe. Oh, I'm the master of my own destiny, the captain of my own ship, and we suppress the truth that God is sovereign and in control and that there is accountability. Romans 1:21 and 22 says, "For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or even give thanks to him. But they became futile in their thinking, and foolish in their hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, exchanging the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things." We are intended to worship. We are created to worship. So when we decide we don't want to worship a one true God that's going to have judgment and accountability, we start carving little things out of stone and worshiping things we've carved with our own hands as though they could do anything. All throughout history, we do this craziness. It was my 10th wedding anniversary. My wife and I loved to scuba dive together, and so we had gone to Jamaica on this scuba diving trip, and while we were there, this dive master that we were with, it was an all-inclusive resort, and all-inclusive resorts, they have tons of food, and then they had tons of alcohol. Well, we don't drink. We don't do anything like that. We wanted to scuba dive. Scuba dive was included. So everybody else was drunk. We were the only ones scuba diving on the boat, and so it was perfect for us. We loved it. We'd scuba dive like 2 times a day, and we'd do like 2 dives every time we went out. We had like our own private dive group. It was great. And so this instructor said to me, I had a basic open water certification. He said, "Do you want to get an advanced open water certification?" Now, I'm a guy that likes degrees, all right? I've never met a degree I didn't like. And so I thought, yes, I want the certification. Why? I don't have a clue. But I want the certification because it's a certification. It's important. I said, "What do I have to do?" He said, "Well, we can do it on this dive." I said, "Great, I'm in. Let's do it." I said, "What are we going to do?" He said, "Well, I'm going to get you to write your name backwards on the boat, and then we're going to go down to 100 feet under the water. You're going to write your name backwards on this slate with this pencil designed for this, and I'm going to time you to show you the effects that the water has on you 100 feet below." Now, I thought in my mind, just being honest, this is how sinful I am, but I thought in my mind, oh, I'm going to ace this test. This guy doesn't know who he's dealing with. I mean, I have a black belt in karate. I mean, I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I mean, I've played Halo. I got, this is easy. Write my name backwards. So I'll tell you what I did. I actually wrote slower on the boat as though it was taking me a little bit longer to process so that I would ace the test. That's how sinful I am. You are too. Don't look at me like I'm weird. So I would ace the test 100 feet under the water and be the first person that did it faster under the water, because that's just how we are, right? Prideful arrogance. Anyway, so I wrote it a little bit slower. We go down, do all the equalization, take our time getting down. You can't go down quickly. We get down to 100 feet under the water. He tells me it's time. He pulls out his slate. He hands me the pencil. He pulls out his stopwatch, and he gives me the countdown, and then he clicks the button. And I write as fast as I can possibly write, and then I get done, and I stick it to his face so he knows I'm done. He clicks the button on the stopwatch, and he shows it to me, and it took me twice as long, 100 feet under the water, to write my name backwards as it did on the boat. I immediately wanted to have a conversation with the dive master, but 100 feet under the water, taking your regulator out to have a conversation is not a good idea. And so I decided I would wait and be a little bit patient to do this. And we continued our dive, and we were going up. And I looked over at my wife, who she did all the certification stuff with me, but she's frugal, and she didn't want to pay money for the certification. So she's done all the work. She just didn't get the sheet of paper that said she was certified for it because she didn't want to spend the money on it. I didn't care about the money. I wanted the certification. So we're swimming along. And I look over at my wife, and I see her fingernails. And her fingernails are this violet-type color, this blue that's just bright. And I remember thinking in my mind, that's not like her. I mean, there are occasions she'll do something like that, but typically she's a red fingernail polish girl, right? She's just standard stuff. And so I look over, and I'm thinking, that's weird. How did I not notice that? Shame on me. I'm going to be in trouble if I don't say something about that when we get to the boat. And so I made a mental note, right? Be a good husband. This is, after all, an anniversary trip. You better pay attention to the details. So we get to the boat, and I've got two things to talk about: fingernail polish and timing. So I go up to the dive master first. Maybe that shows I was more worried about the certification than the fingernails. But anyway, I go up to the dive master first, and I say, all right, tell me what happened. And he explained to me that when you're down that deep underwater, that you are surrounded by such pressure of the water that your brain doesn't think as clearly as it does when you're up on the surface. And because your brain doesn't think as clearly, you need to know that you can't just trust normal reactions when you're 100 feet under the water, because you are in an entire environment surrounded that puts pressure on you that changes the way you think. I thought, okay. So then I went over to my wife. I said to her, "You've got interesting fingernail polish on." She showed me her hands, and it was red. And I went back over to the dive master, and I said, all right, look, I'm losing it. That fingernail polish was purple or violet or blue or something underneath there. What in the world's going on? And the dive master said to me, when you go down deeper in the water, you lose light. And when you lose light, you lose color. And so down deeper in the water, the less light you have to shine on the situation, you start losing your Roy G. Biv, is how I learned it, your colors of the rainbow, your red, your orange, your yellows, your green. You get to your blues, your indigos, and your violets is all that's left. That's why the deepest part of the ocean is so blue. It doesn't have light to show any other color. You know, we live in a world that has been so affected by sin that we are surrounded by the suppression of the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. We are surrounded by the effects of sin, even in our own nature, even in our own self, in our own flesh, as Paul talks about it, in such ways that we can't trust that we can think better than what God thinks. In fact, we need the revelation of the Son to shine its light down upon our life and our situation so that we can clearly see all that's happening in this world and make sense of all that's taking place. So it should not surprise us that when somebody is in a dark place without the light of the Son, of the gospel, of the revelation of Jesus Christ, that they suppress the truth, because that is the sinfulness that is all around them. It takes the light of the Son to shine on our situation so that we understand how foolish we are and how great He is, how much we need salvation, how glorious He is, and how awful we are.